Next, Whitley Strieber joins us as we begin our special report tonight on 2012. That's next on Coast to Coast AM. And welcome back to Coast. I'm George Norrie. Now, Whitley Strieber is our first guest this hour. The next hour, Bob Gleason will join us, and we'll be chatting about 2012. And then in our final hour, Whitley will take phone calls. Bob may stay for that. Whitley, of course, author of many best-selling books, including Communion and The Superstorm, written with Art Bell. His novels, The Greys in 2012, The War for Souls, are both being made into films. Greys expected to be a blockbuster when that comes out as well. Whitley with us tonight on Coast to Coast as we talk about 2012. Hey, Whitley, how are you?
Well, it's good to be back, George. I'm just great. And incidentally, my book, 2012, The War for Souls, has nothing to do with the 2012 movie that's out, Roland Emmerich's movie.
Some people think that's your movie.
I know,
yeah.
But it isn't. And I only have this to say about the movie. Read my book.
Well, and one of the reasons, isn't the director of 2012 the director of The Day After Tomorrow, which was based on your book? Yeah,
absolutely, it is. It's the same director. And I hear 2012 is a terrific special effects movie, but I'm not an advocate of the idea that the world will end on December the 21st, 2012. So, I'm hoping I don't get too identified with that idea.
Well, it's Hollywood. Anybody who goes to see the 2012 movie, put that in perspective when you're looking at it. I've seen the trailer, and it is unbelievable.
Oh, it's very exciting. All I can say is this. I haven't seen the trailer, but I have seen a big ad in one of the papers I read this morning, and it was darned awesome to see a Tibetan Lama standing on the top of the Himalayas watching a tsunami coming. that did it. I thought, this must be a fairly major catastrophe.
I thought I saw the highway I travel in Los Angeles crumbling in the trailer.
Well, it's no question the movie's going to be a lot of fun. But let's not forget, that's what it is, a lot of fun. It is not a movie about an expected reality. NASA's even got a website up about it that's sort of sensible, a little garbled in there. They don't really know very much about what they're talking about, but I think that the evidence that December the 21st, 2012 is, in fact, a day that will be a day that will end all days. It's not clear that that's the case, and not too many of the researchers I've talked to believe that. It'll be interesting to see what Bob Gleason's take on it is, but at the present time, we are certainly in a time of major change. There's no question about that.
Whitley, yesterday we had a story that an asteroid came within 8,700 miles of the planet. You also had it on unknowncountry.com.
Yeah.
This is pretty darn close, Whitley.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit, because there's some quite interesting material, and I guess the kind of overall thesis, in my opinion, is this: we are in a time, and over the course of the evening, we'll get into this more and more in detail, where there is a lot of change going on in our solar system. The Mayan long count calendar happens to end on December the 21st, 2012, and it's rather interesting that this particular calendrical change, which is a profound one in the Mayan calendar, would take place during a time when more and more change is actually emerging in our solar system. Now, last summer, in July, Jupiter was struck by, there was a major strike on Jupiter. But not as big as the Shoemaker-Levy comet, but certainly much bigger than anyone would expect so soon after Shoemaker-Levy. Then shortly thereafter, a big object went slamming through one of Saturn's rings. Then we observed a glowing area on the surface on the visible surface of Venus, which is of course the top of a cloud layer, since Venus is completely covered with clouds. And whether this represented something going on the surface because an impact had occurred, or it was some kind of gigantic volcanic effect taking place on Venus. We don't know. We didn't see anything hit Venus, so we can't be sure. But then subsequently, there have been now 4 objects that have come within anywhere from 215,000 miles to Earth to the most recent one, 8,300 miles, and one that exploded over Indonesia. It was an asteroid about 20 feet across that exploded with a force close to that destroyed Hiroshima. Now, I hasten to add that an asteroid that size, 20 feet across, is almost certainly going to explode in the atmosphere harmlessly. They need to get above 30 feet across. But here's a good question, I think. It's a very reasonable question to ask. Where are these things all coming from all of a sudden?
And they're unnoticed, or they know that they're there within a few days.
Maybe,
they're not giving us much warning.
The Indonesian one, there was no warning.
No warning at all.
No warning at all. And the reason is this. Well, there's 2 reasons. First, our near-Earth observation is of limited effectiveness. I mean, if it wasn't of limited effectiveness, we would have seen them.
Right. And most, Whitley, as you know, are spotted by amateur astronomers, not the pros.
That's right. And these are not being spotted partly because they're small, relatively fast-moving, and partly because apparently their reflectivity is low. In other words, they're not reflecting a lot of sunlight, and they're hard to see. Now, their size so far, it's larger than you would like, but the one that ended the age of the dinosaurs was 6 miles across. Now, that would be very, very bad news if that's something that big showed up. Hopefully it won't. But frankly, with an asteroid passing this planet 8,300 miles away just yesterday with almost no warning, the answer is yes. We could be in for a strike pretty much at any time, obviously. And I think that there ought to be a little bit more consciousness in the media about the fact that this is happening. But no one wants to alarm anybody. Everyone wants to say, if you ask NASA scientists, they'll probably say, this happens like this all the time. But it's not true. It doesn't.
Well, and when we talk about alarm, too, I was looking at the CDC as I led the show with what they say now are 4,000 swine flu deaths. They said they had been reporting 1,000, but they've upped it. Now, this is since April, Whitley. So since April, we've had 4,000 swine flu deaths. But if you take the average number of people who die from the regular flu, that number would be about 18,000. And the mainstream media doesn't report on that. They don't say, now, folks, don't panic. Even though 4,000 died, 18 died, and we don't say anything about it. 18,000 died. Why do they do that?
Well, because they don't know.
Yeah.
They're basically what happens is they react to the latest set of press releases that come in, and there's not too many media outlets left where people actually think about what they're doing, and so the result is you get like each asteroid that shows up. It's like it's the first one. It takes a very good quality media outlet for anyone there to even know that this has been happening more than once or twice recently.
And most of those seasoned pros are retiring or they've been bought off.
Yeah.
And they're gone now.
And the reason is that the whole business is not generating enough money to keep people. It's tragic. I mean, it's like a light going out in our lives, and we don't realize it. So it is unfortunate that that's the case. I don't personally know too much about the swine flu. I haven't perceived it as being too significant a problem because I'm not seeing the kind of pandemic effects that you would normally get from something. It's not nearly as bad, for example, as SARS. Hopefully it won't mutate and turn into something serious. I think it's probably going to, reach a crescendo next month or so and then fade away.
Well, do you think the Mayans, for example, everything that they put together for their calendar and the end date was all based on cosmology, or was it also based on, calamity, disasters, and diseases and things like that?
This planet has had and has a very unstable life. Because of the fact that geologic time is so huge, it doesn't feel that way to any given generation that doesn't happen to experience one of these catastrophes. But in fact,